We have a brand new number one in the power rankings. Drew Brees has broken ribs and a collapsed lung. And we have 1 week left in the regular season in our redraft leagues. All this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Football, Darts, and Fantasy Sports Alliance. There's no reason to wait any longer to bring this guy in for us tonight because we almost didn't have him tonight as we think Kevin might be concussed. Not exactly sure how that happened, but lucky enough to have him on tonight. Kev, how are you? How has your week been?
I am as well as one could be with a slight concussion, but my week has been great. I went 6-0, I believe, if I add all my leagues up correctly, across this past week, and looking forward to this playoff push we got going on.
You know what? I hadn't thought about it until just now of how I went this week, and now that you mention it, I'm pretty sure I went 2-5 this week. Gaining a big win in the FSA and a huge win in the NCFF and Ross Norris's league by beating the number 9 team in all of the NCFF, and that's out of 84 teams. So I feel pretty good about that. MJ's out there and says hello. Jenna's out there as well and says hello. Jenna, please tell Taylor I said hi and that I love him. Hey, let's talk about our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. First, we'd like to thank our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. Football Darts is a game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard, as you can see right there on the screen right now. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com, and you can now find them on Target and Wayfair online. I think it's the first time we got a chance to bring the board up. So we say this every week about multiple targets. Now you can actually see what that looks like. Maria's on. She says hello. Jenna says she will do. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, so I want to talk about our broadcast partners under this umbrella of this thing that we call FSA, right? So we got the empty wagon and we got the average bro. So first off, I want to talk about the empty wagon. I don't have this nice, pretty script written this week. This is what I'm going to say. If you're not listening to Empty Wagon or Average Bros, what are you really doing with your life? That's what I'm going to say to you right now, because this is what you should be doing. You should be listening to these two shows. And if you're not, you're doing fantasy football wrong. You can catch Empty Wagon on their next show, which will be 12:01 Saturday morning, this Saturday, with their week 11 preview, which will be our final week of our preseason. So make sure you go out and listen to them. And if you're not listening to the Average Brothers, with one half of my show here tonight, also part of that show, and the other one, his brother, the Average Josh, you can find those two on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. East Coast time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. They will give you their winners and losers for the week, their NFL news, their odd man out, and their top dogs. And again, if you're not listening to these two shows, what are you really doing with your lives? And if you don't want to catch them on their broadcast because you can't, for some reason, stay awake until 12:01 on Saturday or Monday because you're just not a night owl, go out and catch the replay on their podcast that get released at 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday. The Average Bros come out at 5 o'clock in the morning on Wednesdays today. And then this show will be out 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, Thursday, just in case you can't catch it all right now and want to hear the audio version of it so you don't have to see mine and Kevin's ugly faces. Damien says the concussion might actually help you think straight, Kev.
That's a possibility.
And if you're not watching the live broadcast or listening to the podcast, you're doing fantasy wrong. Always appreciate it when Damien says that. So we are on 3 different platforms right now. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And then we're out there on so many different podcast things that I don't even know them all, which is why I'm just going to let Kevin tell you all of the ones that we're out there on. Kev, who are we? Where can you find us if you just want to listen to us?
If you just want to go out and listen to us and not look at our beautiful faces, as Brian mentioned earlier, we can be found on Anchor, on Spotify, and then on a handful of others, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and pretty much anywhere else that you find your podcast for listening pleasures. We are probably there, and if we're not, we'll be there.
Just a few places. I mean,
Yeah.
anywhere you look for us. So, and if podcast broadcasts still aren't your thing, you're catching us for the first time but want to check us out and what our social media is all about, it's coming across the screen right there at the bottom right now. You can go out to our website at fsa-fr.com. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter down there. And then also you can catch the Empty Wagon guys on their social media, and you'll find them. Their handle is at Empty Wagon FF. So let's talk about NFL news. Now, Kev, I know this is usually yours and Average Josh's piece. You guys talked a lot of NFL news last night on the Average Bros. I have one big piece of news mentioned at the top of the show, talking about Drew Brees taking a shot and having to leave in the game early on Sunday. Tests showed that he had broken ribs on both sides and a collapsed lung. I hear the timetable, though, is just 2 weeks. Is that the same thing you're hearing?
Yeah, so I had heard 2 to 3 weeks as news came in late via our stat guy, Damien, actually, for this past week. He said that Brees actually played the game with one of the broken ribs and a flak jacket, which looking back on the game, I did see the jacket after the fact. He's a slimmer guy anyway, so it wasn't really sticking out to me. But now having broken ribs or fractured ribs or whatever they're calling them on both sides and the punctured lung or deflated, whatever it is, timetable's 2 to 3 weeks, and it's all about the pain management. There's nothing you could really do about it. The lung seems fine from what I read after the game once he sat down and took a breath and was able to get some air into them. It's really just the ribs, rather, just healing them up, which is only done over time, and he's going to have to play through pain with that flak jacket probably the remainder of the season when he comes back. When he comes back, like you mentioned, right now is at a 2 to 3 week timetable.
I can't imagine collapsed, punctured, doesn't matter. Lungs are important, especially when you're playing sports. So for him to be able to play through what he played through the other night and then to be able to come back possibly in just 2 to 3 weeks, it's pretty amazing. Hey, one thing that I forgot to say about the Empty Wagon guys, and I did not want to be able to leave the broadcast tonight without mentioning it, but I don't want to forget, so we're going to bring it up now, right? So these guys are such honest brokers about what they do with their heroes and villains every single week. Now, if you don't know what a hero or a villain is, these are the guys that Brad, Josh, and Eric of the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast put out there as the players that they think are going to be good at each one of the positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end, and the players that they think are not going to be good at those positions. And we publish a graphic every single week for each one of those guys. It looks a little something like this. This is, I believe, Josh's. Let me see here. Guns of L. No, that would be Eric's heroes from last week. As you can see, we get Kyler Murray, Will Fuller the fifth. Who we got down there at running back? Is that J.K. Dobbins, I think, down there?
Yep.
Right jersey number. And then the quarterback for San Francisco, Dwelly. What's that dude's name? Yeah, it didn't matter. He was definitely not a hero for him this week. But this is the graphics that we put together each week for them when we release out on social media. And not only that, but these guys they're not just putting out this news for you all. They believe and know, honest brokers of what they're putting out there for information, that these guys are putting these same players in their lineups. And they believe in it so much that when they get it wrong, sometimes they make pie bets with each other. And these pie bets turn into pie bets in the faces when they get something wrong. And just to prove that they really believe in what they're doing. We have a pie bet settlement from Eric at Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast that we wanted to share with you all tonight.
Hey gang, it's Eric from the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast, and I'm going to cash in on my pies. So I think I said Carson Wentz would outscore Drew Lock one week. He didn't because he's a chump, and he plays for the Eagles, and they're bad. And Kyler Murray didn't have 40 points today and didn't finish as the number one QB. He was third with 31 points, so I'm going to take another pie for that. Thanks, Carson Wentz. You suck.
That's pretty awesome. Love seeing that. I think the comment from Josh, one of the other trio from the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast, he would have liked to see more zest or oomph put into those pies into Eric's face, because apparently it just wasn't enough for him. So who knows? Maybe we'll have some more later on. So, hey, let's get into these games of the week. And after we get done with these games of the week, we're going to talk about our playoff pushes. Definitely going to let you talk quite a bit about the Appalachian region when we get there, because that is your region. And we might be able to pull in a guest appearance from another one of the guys playing in the Appalachian region with you as well, to see and get his thoughts on what it looks like in that region right now. But let's start off with the New England region games of the week. It was last year's general manager of the year, Matt Kroll, and he was also last year's regional champion. The Maniacs knocked off the Phoenix Rage with a final score of 138-92. The win moved the Maniacs and their general manager to number one in the power rankings, and we'll get to the power rankings here in a little bit. All right, in the Appalachian region, Kevin, in your region, the top two teams in the region faced off with the knowledge that the winner was going to take over the number one spot. That honor belongs to the Ship Huggers, as they defeated the Nihilist with a final score of 151-112. With the way these two teams are positioned in the region right now, they will hold the number one and number two team seeds in the region. But this region is so much more complex than that. More to follow later on in the show. Let's talk about the Great Lakes region. Coming into the week, we only had two teams left in all of the Alliance redraft that did not have a win. But leaving out of week 10, now we only have one team left without a win, as the Cavalry finally got their first win of the year by defeating the Ohio Racers. Final score there was 116-112. Congratulations to Jason. Our margin of victory game of the week comes to us from the South Atlantic region. The Greenbacks got the victory over the Beast Mode by 0.2 points. Final score there was 159.44 to 159.24. And in the Gulf Coast region, the Miami Inferno got their seventh win of the season over the Rough Riders. And then, although they won't be able to take over the top spot in the region with the most points in the region and the second most in all of the Alliance, they have put themselves in a comfortable spot with 1 week left. Final score there was 160-130. And in the Western region, the West Coast Avengers was the highest scoring team in all of the Alliance this week. They defeated the Wildcats. Final score there was 195-114. Kevin, what do you think about all of these games of the week in the redraft?
The as you mentioned, the Appalachian region, definitely a wild card going into it. Mathematically, I believe everyone's still in it. Outside of looking at the granular head-to-head stuff based on record, everyone's pretty close. Little caveat to add to it: it is the only region that the rookies also outweigh the vets. 7 rookies in that region as well. So it's very nice to see a lot of new blood challenging some of these older teams. But with that being said, the Ship Huggers and the Nihilist, those are two teams I've been watching all year long, as it looks like I will have to be playing one of them once I get either that 3 or 4 seed in the region. So um, a lot of good stuff coming out of there. And I believe who's the other team you had mentioned put up 190 some points this week. And as we mentioned before the show, in a down week this week, a lot of lower scoring games to be able to put up that kind of number with having a bigger bye week for everybody is surprising and way to go for them.
So you mentioned that the rookies are outweighing the veterans in the Appalachian region. And I believe one of those veterans that's in that region just did a little wave to call you out. Bill the Third, Coach Bill on with us right now. Coach Bill, how are you feeling about this Appalachian region?
Well, I just want to say the Appalachian region is like the SEC of MFL of FSA. All right. The worst team in the Appalachian region could take on the winner of any other region. Okay. That's just how good the Appalachian region is. And I'm only saying that because I'm one of the worst teams in the Appalachian region. Thank you, Kevin.
So do you think you can come you think you can come over the South Atlantic region and take me on?
Well, given the Monarchs record in FSA, I would love that.
Yeah, I kind of would like to have a better record than what I've got right now. And let's get into these dynasty games of the week. So the dynasty leagues still have 4 more weeks of regular season left. So the way that their playoffs are going to go is only 4 teams go to those playoffs, and that's going to be satisfied in weeks 15 and 16. So they will play all the way up to week 14. We're getting ready to come up on week 11. So 11, 12, 13, and 14 is still out there to play in all of those. Highest scoring team in the Alpha League, the New Jersey Red Dogs, defeated the Salt Lake Stallions with a final score of 161 to 106. The Bravo League had a very tight matchup between – thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you bringing that back up for me. The Bravo League had a very tight matchup between the Birmingham Barracudas and the Providence Steamrollers. Barracudas got the win, and that was a 7th win of the season with a final score of 136 to 132. And the top scoring team across all the dynasty leagues this week came from the Charlie League, as the Florida Tuskers knocked off the Washington Federals with a final score of 181 to 123. And in the Delta League, we had a margin of victory game. 1.48 points separated the Miami Seahawks over the Fargo Freeze. Final score there was 112.6 to 111.28. And then in the QB54 arm and leg league, the top scoring team in all of the league came out of the AFC, as Toby's ended up starting Big Ben and Jason Sanders to collect 38 points. And he beat Brian Lewis with a final score of 38 to 26. Brian Lewis starting Justin Herbert and Ryan Suckup this week. And then as we're talking about the highest scoring team in arm and leg this week, the game of the week in the NFC featured the lowest scoring team in all of the alliance, as Lucy James scored -6 points on her way to the loss against Damian Gratz. Final score there was 10 to -6. All right, let's get into these power rankings. As long as I can do this correctly. Y'all are out there seeing my mesh right there. There we go. Power rankings. That's not it. What just happened? I had it all set up, and then it decided it just wanted to take a boo-boo on me. All right, power rankings. There we go. So we mentioned at the top of the show, the Maniacs are now in the number 1 spot. Ship Huggers jumped up 3 spots to number 2. Gadget Guys, who are former number 1 from Empty Wagon, dropped down 2. Hookers move up 2 to the number 4 spots. Rum Runners stayed stationary at number 5. Naughty Dogs, after their win this week, jump up 2. Ohio River Monsters up 5. Killers took a rough loss this week and dropped down 5 spots. West Coast Avengers, highest scoring team in all of the Alliance this week, ends up jumping up 8 points or 8 spots, and the Callous Cowboys jumped up 6, putting him in the 10th spot, and that rounds out our top 10. Other notable mentions for the week: Turd Ferguson moving up from 25 to 15. Land Sharks, and that huge loss to the Lost this week, drops from 11 to 19, which was an 8-spot drop. And that's probably the biggest storylines out of the power rankings. Kev, what do you think about these power rankings?
I think the biggest story is the Evil Empire making its way back in after their long hiatus, sitting at 21.
No. You're not allowed to say such things as long as the mad scientists are still above you at number 18.
Hey, all I'm saying is don't call it a comeback, okay? We're
you know what? Hold on for
we're
just
on
a
our
second.
heels.
I'm scrolling down here a little bit, and I'm trying to, Bill made a comment just a few minutes ago about how even the worst ranked team in the Appalachian region could take on any of the teams in the other regions. And I'm trying to find out, Bill, hold on. Let me share something here.
Well, I was just looking at that, and that would be
yeah.
a fun thing to show on the power rankings is what region every team is in.
Well, and you know what? You have a very good point. That is definitely something I'm going to work on in the off season to make sure that is there. But remind the listening and viewing audience, your team again is.
Well, I mean, does the number really matter? It's about the character of the team. It's about the heart they play with. Okay, I'm number 41.
41.
Yep,
41.
I'll
You're the
take that.
merman, right?
Yep.
So, and then I'll remind the listening and viewing audience, I am the Monarchs, and we have to slide up. I don't know. I can't do math. 41 minus 27 is 14, I think. 14 spots for myself, the Monarchs, who aren't even in the top 25, but still 14 points ahead of you. What is it? Let's see. It's the 5 more quality wins that I have than you, and the 0.032 points of all play record better than I have of you. Okay. Well, I'll remember that you said
touche,
that.
my friend. I will cede that. And I will possibly see you next year. How about that?
That's what I say. I'll take that all the way to 2021 with me. We'll go with that. All right.
All right.
So let me do something else here. Let's get back over onto the standings page, because as I'm talking about the next chunk of this, it's going to be really, really relevant. All right. So we're going to go into the playoff scenarios now. All right. So let's bring it up this way. Everybody should be able to see that. I think it's pretty clear. Let's talk about the New England region first. So we mentioned last week the New England region. The Maniacs have already secured the number 1 seed for the regional playoffs. The team that is currently in second, the Chris Betts, with a record of 7-3, has a 1-game lead on the 2 teams behind them, which are the Assassins and Superfan. The Chris Betts split the games against these 2 teams this year by defeating the Superfans, but losing to the Assassins. So the region also has 4 other teams that are 1 game out from the top 4. That is the 1863 Ramblers, Groot, Average Joes, and Chef Boyardee Louie. And without doing all of the hard math, this means the Chris Betts is guaranteed at least a spot in the regional playoffs, but his seed hasn't been decided yet. And you have those 6 other teams that are still fighting for the other 2 positions. Now, here's the part that you two are going to be the most interested in. Let's slide on down here to the Appalachian Black Bears. So we already said earlier that the Ship Huggers already earned the number 1 seed. As you can see with the records that are there, the Nihilists have already earned the number 2 seed. We're not doing any of the hard math here tonight, but if you look at the records, so we have 1 more week to go, correct? We've got the Green Arrow and the Black Lion sitting right now at number 3 and number 4 at 5-5. That means any team, without doing the hard math again, that is 4 or 6 or better has a chance to make the playoffs in this region. So let's scroll down the Appalachian region here. Sin City Kitties 5-5, Evil Empire 5-5, Mad Science is 5-5, Angry Vipers 4-6, Merman 4-6, Mayberry Union High 4-6, Meyerwolf 4-6, Fantasy Football Team 4-6. Again, my math skills aren't very good. After I just got done doing the hard math of how many spots I'm ahead of Bill right now, but my math skills say that every team in this region still has a chance of making it to the playoffs. That involves,
call me the comeback kid.
That involves both
it.
of you. And I know, Kev, before the show got started, you were doing a little bit more of the hard math. Tell me what you two think, where you're at right now.
So Selfishly, I do believe that it's probably going to be myself and the mad scientist with the easiest path out of the 5-5 teams that aren't in the 3 and 4 spot right now to make it because of the matchups. Myself holding the tiebreaker over Mad Scientist, but the Mad Scientist holding the next level of tiebreaker, which is the total points scored. They're about 100 points ahead of myself, which I believe I'm next in line with the teams that are not locked in there. So he's got a good shot winning a tiebreaker that way once all these teams unfold this week, matchup wise, and then me having beat him, and if I win this week, beating the Black Lions, probably going to get the 3rd seed that way. But regardless, as you mentioned, it is anyone's game as we head into this week. Bill, I do wish you no luck because of such.
And I deserve that.
So
although I do have to thank you for Rojo helping
what
me
is the
get
best scenario to get Bill in the playoffs right now? Do we have that calculated?
So if you do the hard math, I believe he needs almost everybody to lose because of tiebreakers, except for me. I have to win because the Black Lions beat him. So that would lock me at 3, and he would have to fight for the 4 seed. And fighting for the 4 seed, he would need basically everyone to lose outside of somebody below him that he has beat, which would probably be your dad, the Mayberry Union High, if I'm not
I think I
mistaken.
actually need two teams to tie in order to make it work, right? Can we
That's
order
always
one of
fun.
those? I'm betting on it. Count on it. It's happening.
Right. Hey, so does it really matter, Bill, if you make the playoffs this year? Because you have one of the greatest gifts that could be given at the FSA level. I would love for you to show that off if you can for the viewing audience right now. You're polishing something there. What is that?
This is my crowning achievement. It hangs in the doorway to my home. It is the Rookie General Manager of the Year 2016 Bourbon Boys. Now the Merman. My most proudest plaque that I have. That's right.
That's pretty
and
awesome.
Everybody watching, you too could have the esteemed honor of being the Rookie General Manager of the Year for the Fantasy
Rookie
Sports
General
Alliance.
Manager.
It is the
So,
highest
Kev,
honor.
you've already done it. You've done the counting, right? So we've got, 28 rookies this year?
Yep, 28 rookies, and I believe I don't have my handy-dandy notebook in front of me. I believe there is 9 of which heading into this week that are in the top 25. Maybe a little over that. As I mentioned, the Appalachian region being the most heavily dominated by rookies, with 7 of them kind of hurting their case, all having to play each other. And then it is the South, is it? South or West that is split with 5 or 6 and 6 rather. So a lot of good competition all over the FSA, whether you are a rookie or a vet to the league, causing a ton of competition heading into this last week.
Yeah, and the competition doesn't get any easier as we go through the rest of these as well. So let's just go ahead and get back to these playoff scenarios for each one of these regions. Let's talk about the Great Lakes region. So the number 1 seed in the Great Lakes region is still up for grabs, as the Ohio River Monsters currently have that 8-2 record. But Turd Ferguson and the Killers that you see there now are at 7-3. The Ohio River Monsters and Turd Ferguson play against each other this final week. If the Ohio River Monsters win, they will earn the number 1 seed. If Turd Ferguson gets the win, they will get the number 1 seed. And with a win by the Killers, the Ohio River Monsters will fall to number 3. A loss by the Killers and wins by both Garbage Points and Music City Miracles will create a 3-way tie between these teams. All three teams have already faced off against each other and hold a 1-1 record. So at that point, the tiebreaker will be total points for the season. So very, very close here as well. As you can see, as we count down 4 spots, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Music City Miracles at 6 and 4. That means any team, again, without doing the hard math, that is 5 and 5 or better still have a chance to make the playoffs. That would be TDs and Beer, Creek Dogs, and the Mongoose all still have a chance to get in. Those eliminated already: Golden Boys, which is Average Josh, Melon Hawks, Ohio Racers, and Calvary, even though congratulations to Calvary for getting their first win of the year. So this one is going to take a little bit longer to explain, and I'll explain here why it's going to take a little bit longer to explain. I did not want to not mention all of this because of the hard work that Sean Purcell from the South Atlantic region put into these playoff scenarios for us. He went out and did the hard math for us and gave us a breakdown for each one of these teams that you're going to see in here. All of the teams that still had the opportunity without doing the hard math first to be able to make the playoffs. And we're going to go through each one of these because he did all of that work. We might as well highlight it, right? So Sean, the Naughty Dogs right now, he gets a win this week. He's the number 1 seed. He gets in. Even with a loss and a Land Sharks loss this week, he gets the number 1 seed. With a loss this week and a Land Sharks win, he gets a number 1 seed due to head-to-head record. So put the number 1 seed right next to the Naughty Dogs. They are guaranteed that spot going in. Land Sharks, however, at that 7-3 record, with his win, number 2 seed, if he gets a loss in any combination of the Greenbacks or the Southern Sirens with a win or a loss, he ends up as the number 3 seed due to head-to-head tiebreakers. Scroll down here to Rocky Bird, the Greenback general manager. Lots of playoff implications here. So he wins, and a win by the Monarchs and the Southern Sirens, and Rocky gets the 4 seed. If the Greenbacks win and the Monarchs lose and the Southern Sirens lose, Rocky gets the number 3 seed. If he wins, the Monarchs lose, and the Southern Sirens win, still the number 3 seed. If he wins and the Monarchs win and the Southern Sirens lose, that is a number 4 seed. If he loses, the Monarchs win and the Southern Sirens lose, he needs the Unicorn Legends to lose to make the playoffs. If the Unicorn Legends win, the Greenbacks are out. And if he loses and there's any other kind of outcomes, he'll be out due to tiebreakers. So we're going to talk about mine, the Monarchs. If I win, the Greenbacks win, Southern Sirens win, I get in as the number 2 seed due to tiebreaker. If I win, the Greenbacks win, and the Southern Sirens lose, still in as the number 2 seed. If I get a win, the Greenbacks get a loss, and the Southern Sirens get a win, I make the playoffs based on points for, but that's only if I got the points for. But if I lose, I'm out. There are no other outcomes that help me get in. So I need a win with a little bit of help to make sure that I get in. The Southern Sirens currently at 6 and 4. If she wins and the Monarchs win and the Greenbacks win, she's out. If she wins, the Monarchs win, and the Greenbacks lose, she gets the 4th seed. If she wins, the Monarchs lose, the Greenbacks win, she gets the 4th seed. If she wins, the Monarchs lose, and the Greenbacks lose, 3rd seed. If she loses, the Monarchs lose, and the Greenbacks lose, she gets in as the 3rd seed due to tiebreakers. If she loses, the Monarchs wins, and the Greenbacks lose, she needs the Unicorn Legends to win to make the playoffs. But if the Unicorns Legends lose, then she's out. If she loses, the Monarchs lose, and the Greenbacks win, she gets in as a 4th seed. And if she loses, the Monarchs win, and the Greenbacks win, she's out. Gotta take a breath. All right, let's talk about the E-Thugs at 5 and 5. He has no combinations that will be able to get him into the playoffs, according to Sean, because of the head-to-head record. The Lumiere at 5 and 5, though, still have a chance to get in. If he wins, the Monarchs lose, and the Southern Sirens lose, he gets in as the 4th seed. If he wins, the Monarchs lose, and the Southern Sirens win, he still gets in as the 4th seed. If he wins in any of the other outcomes, he's out due to tiebreaker. And then, according to Sean, the Kalunga Clan and the Unicorn Legends only have the role of spoiler in all of this because they don't have a chance to make the playoffs at their 5-5 record. And I'm going to take a breath, bring you guys back in, tell you what you think, and tell me what you think about the South Atlantic Dragons.
Man, that is a interesting combination. I do want to thank Sean for going out and doing that hard math because I know that I would not want to be in charge of any of that. But it's definitely interesting to watch, and I know that's spoiler tends to be what the Unicorn Legends like to be, having beaten you earlier in the year, I believe. Correct?
She did. She does that quite often, about every year. Yeah.
So I know that that's going to be definitely a game to watch this week out of that region to see where that plays into the role. And if you take a look at it, you also have 1, 2, 3, 4 teams out of that region also in the top 25. So definitely power rankings, implement whatever that word is that I can't pronounce right now, implications. And not necessarily important as of right now or in the regional playoffs, but when those region winners do happen and they go to the Worlds, that does determine your Worlds Championship seeding. So want to keep that in mind as we move forward here and we take a look at those, why we are stressing that, where Damien falls ahead of me or behind me after this upcoming week, why we want to keep bringing that up and, keep an eye on it. But for the regional playoffs, that is definitely, I would say, outside of the Appalachian region with everybody mathematically being in, is probably the most interesting to see with not a single spot locked down.
Yeah, definitely going to be. And Sean, so first off, I want to say hi to Jenna. Jenna says that we're very blurry on her end. Jenna, how much have you had to drink tonight? Please let us know. And Sean says, thanks, y'all. Sean, yes, thank you for doing the hard math for us. Usually that's something I get very excited about wrapping my head around. But this year, I figure we still have one more week left. I'll wait to do the hard math when it's time to break those tiebreakers before we go into these regional playoffs on our way to the world playoffs for sure. Jenna says she has had nothing to drink tonight. I find that hard to believe. False, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we really are just blurry tonight. I don't know. She says she just
wait. Does how much we drink make it blurry for them? Is that how it works?
What? That's a very good possibility. That's a very good point. Bill, how much have you had to drink?
Zero.
Oh shit. Kevin, how much have you had to drink?
I mean, I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, the green cup. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, maybe I've had enough to make all three of us blurry then tonight. That's a possibility. Hey, let's get back into these power rankings. Let's talk about the Gulf Coast region. So they have one of the most interesting matchups this week, and it's actually going to be our Week 11 Game of the Week preview. This week, the Hookers and the Rum Runners play against each other. The winner of that game is going to take over as the number 1 seed. The loser, of course, will take the number 2 seed, as you can see the record there, because the next closest team is the Inferno. What makes this even more interesting, though, is that the general manager, Lucy James of the Hookers, and listen to the name here, general manager of the Rum Runners, Rusty James, yes, you heard the same last name, are husband and wife. And they are now playing for the number 1 seed in the Gulf Coast region. Somebody's sleeping on the couch after this weekend. But what's even more interesting about this region is that there are 6 teams that are behind them, which include the Inferno, 99 Problems, Nature Coast Colonials, Vols, Labradors, and Psychedelic Seahorse. All still have a chance at that number 3 and number 4 seed. And I just want to give a little shameless plug in here for Lucy, the general manager of the Crab Island Hookers. I know a lot of people are wondering how that logo works out with a team name of the Hookers. Full team name there is actually the Crab Island Hookers. She is as you can see by those 2 stars there, a 2-time champion here with FSA. And not only is it 2 times, it was back-to-back championships. And adding to that awesomeness was the changing of the rule set and the number of teams that we had change between the first year that she won it and the second year she won it. So good luck to both of them this week. Should be a very interesting game. Damien says, how do we decide bowl games? So let's answer that question before we move on to the Western region here. So the bowl games will be anybody that finishes above 500. The rivalry bowl games are going to be the teams that runner up in the regional championship playoffs. So if you're down to the final two teams in the regional championships and you end up losing that game, you will move over to the rivalry bowl game. That rivalry bowl game is one of those ones that's sponsored by our great bowl sponsors that we'll mention at the end of the show, and they come along with prizes for that one. The rest of the bowl games that we have right now are more for bragging rights. We call them the invitational bowl games. The way I see those are you have to finish 500 or better. So 6 or 5 or better. Not already in the regional championship, not already on your way to the world championship. You're in the invitational bowl games at that point. I will take your record, your power ranking, and I will try to pair two teams that are close to each other to play against each other. What I don't have you do is you won't play another team that is already in your region, and you won't play a team that is in the same region that your rivalry bowl game happens in. In this case, the Great Lakes region is always playing the Pac South. We don't have a Pac South this year, so it's the West. So if you are a Great Lakes team and you finish 6 or 5 or better and you're getting ready to go to an invitational bowl game, you will not play anybody else in the Great Lakes and you will not play anybody in the West. So I will pick the next best team based on record power rankings, and that's who you will play against. And that's how the bowl games go. I wish I could say, it's very beautiful mind and I do it up on a board and link everybody together and stuff like that. But I really am just the way I did it last year was grab slips of paper, and I made sure that I had the record and the power rankings on it and knew what region you were from. And I just started piecing things together like a puzzle. There is a possibility if we have an odd number of teams that are 6 or 5 or better, that we will pull the best 5 and 6 team to also participate in that invitational bowl game. That way we have an even number of teams and have a balanced number of invitational bowl games. So that's how that goes. Hope that explains it to you. Ross on with us. He says hello briefly. Ross, of course, the co-creator of the QB54 and our test league this year, the King of the Castle League, which we will talk about here in a few minutes. But let's finally get to this West. There you go. If you bring it up on the screen, it will happen. So despite the good run by the Gadget guys, they still have a chance to be knocked out of first place and the chance at the number 1 seed in the West. So the Gadget guys are currently 8-2, and they have 3 teams behind them: the West Coast Avengers, the Koalas, and the Calais Cowboys, all at 7-3. A loss by the Gadget guys and wins by the Koalas or the Calais Cowboys, and he will fall from first. But a loss by the Gadget guys, Koalas, and Calais Cowboys, and a win by the West Coast Avengers still keeps the Gadget guys in first by way of head-to-head tiebreaker against the West Coast Avengers. Included with these 4 teams are the Lunatics and Factory of Sadness, still having an outside chance of making the playoffs again without doing the hard math. All right, I've rambled on for like 20 minutes now. I need you two to say something. What's up out there?
I would love to see out of the West the Factory of Sadness squeak into the 4 spot and the Gadget guys hold the 1 spot because, as we know, 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3, and that
Yep.
would mean that 2 of your 3 empty wagon members would face off in round 1 of the playoffs. So that would be very interesting to see out of that region.
That might make for very good commentation on the Empty Wagon show for sure.
And I'll just say, you mentioned the QB54 Arm and Leg League, and that's the league I'm doing the best in. And I don't know how, because I have Kyler Murray and he runs for all his touchdowns, which
doesn't count.
you never know what's going to happen. I think I won a game with 0 points this year, so that's definitely a fun league to play in.
So the way that we're going to do the playoffs there as well, we have 1 week left there in the regular season as well. That we will take, because we broke that league up into two different conferences, the AFC and the NFC. In fact, since we're bringing that up right now, and I'm already over here playing around with some of the websites on the side to get ready to show you all the King of the Castle, let's go ahead and pull up the Arm and Leg League right now and show that off to everybody. So here's the QB54 Arm and Leg League. If you're not already playing in it, this will be back again next year. It's been a fun league, nothing but kickers and quarterbacks. So we do have two conferences, the American Football Conference and the National Football Conference, kind of following the theme of what the NFL has out there. As you can see, the logos that are out here are AFC jerseys of either quarterbacks or kickers of current or past players. And then if you scroll down here a little bit further, the same thing for the NFC. Just worked out that of the 24 teams that are here, we have 12 and 12, so it balanced out perfectly. The way this is going to play out is the top 5 teams from each one of these conferences are going to go into the playoffs starting in week 12. And it's going to be used in a very Euro-style playoff system, very much like Australian and any of the Euro leagues that are out there used for the playoffs, where the number 1 team will get a first-round bye, the number 2 will play the number 3, and the number 4 will play the number 5. If you are the loser of the 4-5 game, you are eliminated. If you are the winner of the 4-5 game, you will play the loser of the 2-3 game, and the winner of the 2-3 game will play the first round bye team. And then that same thing will go. So the higher the seed that you are, it will take 2 losses for you to get knocked out. And you are rewarded by being the number 1 seed by having that first round bye. We will have, after this week is over, we will have the playoff scenarios posted for that as well at the top of the QB54 page. Talked to Ross Norris today, the co-founder of this league, with myself, and what that was going to look like. So MFL will not handle the playoff scenario in the way that we want to do it. Even if I try to break it down by round, which I did work on today, will not work. So what we're going to do is just graphically put it together, my favorite thing to do. And we're going to put a graphic playoff bracket at the top of the standings page here on the QB54 Arm and Leg League, so you can see what the playoffs are going to look like. And then we'll just schedule the playoffs through the normal scheduling screen on QB54. So this is the part of the show that I wanted to talk a little bit about the King of the Castle. So most of you, or some of you that are out there right now listening to us, know that we are starting a new test league this year called the King of the Castle to bring it forward in 2021. This was basically the end of our first week of King of the Castle, or testing this league. Show you the page right here for the King of the Castle as well. So this is a relegation league, a weekly relegation league, where everybody starts down at what we are calling the Esquire and Lady level, where all 16 teams started here. The 8 winners moving up to the Knight Dame level, while the 8 losers stay down here at the Esquire and Lady level. The rewards of war, or the what do they call it?
Spoils of victory.
There you go. Spoils of victory. I knew somebody would know it out there. Thanks, Kev. Spoils of victory means that the teams that won get to pillage 2 players off the roster of the teams that they beat, and then they then have to drop 2 players to make sure that their rosters stay at 10 players. And then there will be a waiver wire made on Wednesday at 6 p.m. East Coast time for those that are at the Esquire and Lady level, to try to build their teams back up as they get ready to move on to week 2, or the next round of this relegation league. Teams will only play teams at their level. In that case, Esquire and Lady teams will only play against themselves. And the same thing happens for the Knight and the Dame level. So a couple of things happened tonight that I wanted to talk about live here on the show. So one of the rule sets that we have, a hard rule that we have that is both on the rules page and on NFL's settings for the league, is that a team can have no more than 2 quarterbacks on their rosters. That is the maximum roster limit. With this league, there is a lot of work, handwork, that needs to be done by the commissioner, as far as dropping of players from the teams that were defeated, dropping of players from the teams that won, and then the addition of the players that the winning teams wanted from those that they pillaged. In that, I did not pay enough attention to quarterbacks being placed on teams. 2 of those teams that are now at the Knight and Dame level end up with 3 quarterbacks on their roster. My mistake. Good thing that we are in the beta testing version of this league right now, so we can try to correct these mistakes now. We have already asked those 2 general managers to please drop a quarterback that is going to stay out there on the waiver wire, because I think that is the most fair. Because if we had caught this and done this the right way, they would have been out there on the waiver wire for people to grab tonight during the waiver wire. So we leave them out there for another week, right? But there are also a second problem that goes along with this. Only having the waiver wire run right now poses a problem when MFL only allows a maximum of 8 rounds of waiver wire moves. Because you're trying to fill the gap of 2 holes that are now on your roster, if you are a Esquire or a Lady, 8 rounds might not be enough, especially if everybody's going after the same players. So one of the other things that we have found out is after we run the waiver wires, we are going to have to also have a first come, first serve. There was a team this week that decided not to make any waiver wire moves. And because of the 2 players that were pillaged off the team, they now only have 8 players on their roster. So in a scenario like this would be a perfect opportunity for them to be able to use the first come, first serve. However, we already know with the waiver wire ran, quality of player that they're going to get probably isn't the greatest. So fixes that we are implementing for the 2021 season. But I wanted to be completely transparent when we talked about this. I wanted everybody that was out there who might be trying to figure out what this FSA thing is all about, that if you're interested in playing redraft leagues, we have that. If you're interested in playing dynasty leagues, we have that. If you're interested in playing just arm and legs, because kickers are players too, or people too, we have that for you as well. And then we also have this relegation league. And Kevin, I think you said it best last week when you were explaining this league. Explain it to the folks out there again.
Yeah, if you're the type of player that likes to use third-party sites that do daily fantasy football, this is the closest thing to it that you are going to get in a season-long setting. And what I mean by that is, as we go through the ranks here, if you don't know what the relegation league is all about, as you move up the ranks to become the king of the castle, it only takes 4 weeks or 4 consecutive wins to get into the money, and you win. It will be next season that we do so, but you win your money back or closer to it with 1 win. But if you lose, you're out of the ranks and you basically build a new team again through the waiver process that Brian had just mentioned. But if you continue to win, you continue to build your bankroll, and you win money each and every week versus a season-long payout. But you can do so without changing your lineup if you do choose so, based on the pillage strategy. So it is the closest thing to a weekly fantasy in a season-long setting as you can get.
Both of you won this week in the first week of the test week. How do you feel, other than the hiccups, which I think were probably self-inflicted? How do you think it went this first week?
How do I think it went play-wise, or how do I think my team is? Because those are not the same answer, unfortunately. To answer the first...
Go ahead, Kev. No, you go.
No, I was going to say that I think overall I love the format. This is a first for me. Playing fantasy now 5, 6, 7 something years. This was the first I had ever heard of it. But I do like it, and I think it is very interesting. As I said, I am into weekly fantasy, so this does tend to lean that way. So I like that. I like the pillaging portion. It enables you to move around injury and buys and build a small structural team that way. But the reason why I'm a little apprehensive in my answer is because I do have Drew Brees, which will have to be on my bench. As we know, as we mentioned earlier in the NFL news, he is out 2 to 3 weeks. And I kind of prematurely chose my spoils of war before having looked into that too far and realizing that he was going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. So I did not pillage a quarterback, something I'm going to have to deal with for the next week, or at least 1 more week till I can get one next week.
Bill, who was it that you ended up pillaging this week?
So my pillaging got completely screwed up. I guess back up. I absolutely love the King of the Castle format because it is the most interesting fantasy format that we've had, in FSA, I think. And I had my pillages all picked out, and then I realized week 11 buys completely wrecked that. So then I had to take second Vikings receiver, and I took Gronk as a tight end, even though I still have Saints tight end that did nothing. Cook.
So you ended up with Gronk and Justin Jefferson as your two pillaged.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. Yes, I think that
Jefferson's not a bad pick.
Yeah, I honestly think that probably the most interesting thing is going to be, and it's something that I thought about a couple of weeks ago as we were first presenting this as an idea. So that first 4 weeks of the season, unless the NFL decides that they're going to start buys in week 4, right, will be the only time that you won't have to deal with the buys until, we finally reach that final point, this year being week 13 of the buys. We have no buys. In case you all didn't know, there are no buys in week 12 of the NFL season. And then again, we pick up 2 more teams in week 13 with Tampa Bay and Carolina. So weird that we have 4 teams this week, week 11, none in 12, 2 in 13. How that's going to affect who you pillage next year based on the very small roster size that we have and the only 2 bench players out there. Let's see. Damian says Kevin got excited and premature pillaged his opponent, which might had to the strategy. Wait for news to hit Tuesday to post from there. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what Damian's trying to say there, but yes, I think Kevin was trying to make a point that he was going to get a win this week, and out on the GroupMe chat room, put out who he was going to steal from. Who'd you beat this week?
I had beaten MJ, who is Southern Sirens in redraft. I'm not 100% sure her name now in King of the Castle.
Mary, Queen of Sirens, which by the way has one of the coolest logos that we have in this format. So yeah, you had maybe not prematurely, but you definitely did call out who you were going to pillage from her kind of early.
Well, when we go back to this one here, so to add this, Damien's last sentence is, which might add to the strategy to wait for Tuesday's news to hit before you post, because you do have 24 hours after the games end on Monday, which we had nobody playing Monday, so we had already known our winner Sunday, I believe, even before the late games came on too. So I think we were done very, very early. 4 o'clock was it for us. So I knew who we were going to take. And being a student of the game, I watched that very closely and had already been looking at all of the matchups to see, hey, who can I potentially take if I do win? And if I lose, who can I potentially pick up off of waivers that I think might be out there? In doing so, it was posed to me, hey, good job, Kev. You're going to end up winning. I said, great. I'll tell you who I'm going to take in 10 minutes when these games are over. So I did it. And then Drew Brees happens to go and break some ribs later in the day. So it didn't work out well for me.
Next time, wait. Yeah, so great comment here by Ross, and I appreciate this, Ross. He says, glad to hear everyone loves these leagues. Maybe Brian wants to hear some more league ideas he has. He has one that's called a Vulture League. Definitely want to look into that. We can add that to the list of, I think, now the 54 different league ideas that I also have that are sitting on the back burner. Anytime I can add additional ones to that, maybe one day we'll have all of them. Bill laughs, but I do have an Excel spreadsheet that has 54 different league ideas on it. So maybe we'll add those ones from Ross, and I would love on additional leagues. So, hey, the show is now hitting 59-minute mark. Let's see if we can get through this and finish this up. Let's talk about primetime games, since Kev mentioned that he had already won the King of the Castle League by 4 o'clock and didn't have to worry about late games or Monday night games. But some of us still care about that. So let's talk about, well, first off, how did we do last week?
Last week, one of us did pretty well, and it is not you, my
Not
good
me.
friend
Not me.
there. We both took Tennessee, which we know the outcome there. Then I had taken my favorite, the hometown New England Patriots, who did win over the Ravens in a late game spree there in a downpour. And then we had both taken Minnesota, which we watched Kirk Cousins get his first primetime
Prime
win. He
time win.
is now 1-9 in prime time, which brings both of our records to an even 16-15 apiece on the year.
We're horrible at this. Could you imagine if we actually had to pick against the spread?
Hey, it's better than 500, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. So let's see if we can stay above 500. Let's make sure we get Bill in on this week. Bill doesn't join us very often, so we'll let him get the first pick on the Thursday night football. Happens tomorrow night. We got Arizona at Seattle, and this surprises me a lot. 2 hours ago, I checked the maybe 2.5 hours. I checked this point spread for this game. Seattle favored by 3, which really blows my mind right now. The over under 57.5 points. Bill, who do you like in that game?
Well, I've been told I pick with emotion, not data. I traded Kenyon Drake to Damian, who I really want to, lose miserably. So I'm going to take the Sea Chickens for the win.
And you're not even a fan of the Sea Chickens. You really don't
Not
like
at
them.
all. I don't.
Kev, who do you like in this game?
Well, if you guys didn't happen to see the Average Bros yesterday, this is a very heavily vested game for myself, as we are putting 2 points on our top dog segment for this week, which happens to come out of this Thursday night game. The Average Josh having taken Russell Wilson from the Sea Chickens, and myself taking Kyler Murray from the Cardinals. So I got to stick to my guns here. I am going to take who I believe is going to be now front runner in the MVP race, one Sir Kyler Murray and the Cardinals.
So, yeah, I don't really care about the point spread right now, and I realize they're in Seattle. The 12th man isn't a thing right now. The fan isn't there. I watched the comeback last week. Amazing comeback by Arizona, and that just kind of added to the question that I asked in Group Me tonight about the humbled players and talking over the last 25 years. Great players, but we're humble, really a team thing. And DeAndre Hopkins came to me. It was a tweet that I saw that was out there, made me think about it. So let's watch the hat. We're gonna put the Cardinals on. Mark me down for the Cardinals for the week. And I guess that means that win or lose, that I won't gain any ground on you if we're going after the same team.
Yeah, just an interesting tidbit on them, and an even greater admiration for DeAndre Hopkins. They put out a video of him through practice where the cameras were actually trying to videotape him in his workout and going through the motions, and he walks up to the sideline with the receiving core and says, no. Why don't you go down there and videotape the offensive line? Because if they don't block, I can't score. So go down there and look at the real heroes. And then he walked back and kind of ignored everybody else and just did his own thing. So hats off to him. I got to assume that he learned some of that from probably one of the most humble receivers on the opposite side of him, being Larry Fitzgerald. So goes hand in hand. Not saying that he wasn't before he got there, but birds of a feather flock together. So both pretty great pretty great and humble receivers there together. So glad to see that.
It was actually that video that caused me to write that message in Group Me tonight, because I saw the same thing and I thought that was pretty awesome as well. All right, Bill. Kansas City at the Raiders. Kansas City favored by 7.5. Over under is actually less than the Arizona Seattle game at 56.5 points, 1 point less. Who do you like in that one?
I have to say I love watching Patrick Mahomes play the sport. He is an athlete. He does unhuman things. But I pick with emotions and what I want. So I have Derek Carr. I'm going with the upset. Raiders for the win.
Ooh, like it. I like it. Kev, who do you got?
I also am a fan of the underdog, which I'm going to take back to back here. I'm going to agree with you and take the Raiders.
Whoa, really? All right. So the Raiders beat Kansas City earlier this year. Got to watch that game. Was a really good game. Thought maybe we finally saw some vulnerabilities out of Kansas City at that point. Thought the Raiders were the truth. I'm glad I had Derek Carr at that point. However, basically about the same time, Josh Allen decided that he was going to stop doing Josh Allen things. Derek Carr stopped doing Derek Carr things, and really have hurt my fantasy football season right now. That 7.5 point favorite by Kansas City is there for a reason. I would probably at this point take Kansas City minus the 7.5 and still put money on them. So I am taking Kansas City for the week. Lock it in. All right. So I think I know who Bill's going to probably take on this one since he picks with emotion. So Monday Night Football, we got the LA Rams at Tampa Bay and Tampa Tom. Tampa Bay's favored by 4, over under 48.5. Go ahead. I know you're ready to explode.
If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Tom Brady is a systems quarterback. He's garbage. If you need to be reminded that it's 4th down, I'm sorry, you are not the GOAT. All right. If you blame everyone around you for your failures, you are garbage. Rams for the win.
Kev?
I can't even believe you just said that. I am very disappointed in you. I have to go with Tampa Bay and Tampa Tom there. I got to go with my boy. I got to stick to my guns. I got to hope that he puts up a 40 burger because he is on my redraft team, leading me into the playoffs there. So can't stray from what he's been doing for me all season and putting up points. Unlike your ridiculous comments there, Tampa Tom by a mile, 2 miles.
All right. So hold on. Let me make sure I got this straight, Kev. You picked Seattle, yeah?
No, I took Arizona.
Or you took Arizona, but you did take the Raiders.
Arizona, Oakland, and now the Bucks.
Ah, hell. I'm taking the Rams. I'm going to jump on that wagon with Bill and just hoping that I can separate myself from you a little bit further. Even though I think Tampa Bay probably has a better chance of winning this game, I need to figure out a way to increase that +1 over 500 and get away from you a little bit more. I've got the Rams defense in a couple of leagues. I got individual defensive players from the Rams team in a couple of leagues. Jared Goff, Robert Woods. I don't think I have a single Tampa Bay player anywhere on any of my teams. We're going to LA.
Why you're doing so poorly?
It's okay. The Bucks running game might carry them to the win,
Yeah. You know what? Now
I've got him on my team too. I've got all bases covered for my Bucks as far as redraft goes. I've got Antonio Brown, Rojo, and Tom Brady. So, whatever they decide to do, I got you.
I do believe I got Leonard Fournette in one of my leagues, which is unfortunate because he's not been doing much lately. But it's in a very tough league that I play with Matt Kroll, who is our number 1 team in the New England Phoenix, our general manager of the year from last year, regional champ from last year as well. I don't have the room to be able to drop him and put another player in there, so I'm stuck starting Fournette every single week. It is what it is. Hey, so we already talked about all the primetime games. There's our bye games coming across the bottom of the screen right now. As you see, San Francisco, the New York Giants, Chicago Bears, Buffalo Bills off this week. Quite a few good players that are on that list. Make sure you are adjusting your lineups and don't forget to set your lineups this week. So next broadcast, we've got the Empty Wagon broadcast at 12:01 a.m. East Coast time this Saturday, 21 November. They will release that broadcast as a podcast at 5 o'clock. They will be back again for another broadcast at 12:01 a.m. East Coast time on Monday, 23 November. They will release that broadcast as a podcast at 5 o'clock in the morning East Coast time on Monday the 23rd. Average Bros will be back 8 p.m. East Coast time on the 24th of November, next Tuesday. They will release their show at 5 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. And then we will be back for the Fanatic the Real broadcast at 8:30 p.m. East Coast time on the 25th of November, the day before Thanksgiving. And then we will release this broadcast as a podcast the next morning at 5 o'clock. Would like to thank all of our sponsors. We've got Finger Lakes Mercantile, Football Darts. Football Darts is our broadcast sponsor. Nature Coast Tailgating is our World Championship sponsor. QB54, which is our arm and leg sponsor. The Recast, the official music of the FSA. And then again, to mention Finger Lakes, Deep South Creation, Southern Siren Sugar Scrub, and Cranky Veteran Candle Company, which are all of our bowl game sponsors this year. Thank you, guys, for joining tonight, and thank you to everybody that stayed with us and watched us for our hour and 10 minutes. If you like the show, make sure you go out, like, subscribe. What's the other thing they do now? Like, subscribe, and
Share.
And share. There you go. Share us, please. We'd like to be shared. Please like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on all of our social media. You'll see it coming across the bottom right now. Go out and check out our website, fsa-fr.com, and then we will see you next week. Bill, thank you. Hey, we didn't get a chance to get an FSA Lions update. How did we do these last 2 games?
You know, we had a great season. We finished 4-2. Real proud of the kids. They played great. Were great sports, and it was a lot of fun.
Will you be coaching the team again next year?
You know, I hope to. We'll see how it plays out.
All right. Well, definitely put FSA down. I don't know what will end up being next year. I don't know if Lions is a mainstay, if it's a stick or not, but we will be the FSA whatever for you again next year.
That'd be awesome. And, you know, I want to say something about the podcast. I started listening to Average Bros and Empty Wagon on the way to work in the mornings. I started listening to Average Bros when I got there. I got the corner office. You know, that's what it does for you. I listened to Empty Wagon. They made me CEO. So, all right, my results, it may not work for you, but it worked for me. So listen to the podcast.
Absolutely. If you're, again, like Damien said at the top of the show, first off, I said, I don't know what you're doing with your lives if you're not already watching or listening to those 2, but you're doing fantasy football wrong if you're not watching or listening to those 2 shows. So we will see you all back here again Saturday morning, 12:01 East Coast time, Saturday morning. Make sure you stay awake for that. Great show. And then we will see you back here next Wednesday with these beautiful faces you see in front of us. You all have a great night.